I was just saying to Janet that I'm getting too old for this. After I swore my head off that this is the worst.
Keeps hitting his head. We're surfing here. Thump, thump, thump.
You can't imagine it. Overhead tabbing in a compartment that's way too small for me. It's dripping on my face. I've got a face full of resin.
Put your big old mask on
I've
there.
got all over my arms. Freaking everywhere. All over the walls. Yuck. No fun. No fun at all. What?
Nothing.
Did you got my life insurance before you asked me to do this? And now I'm in for some fun. I've got a tab all the way along the back of the boat here. Now you remember when I joined the hull on the deck, Zach got in here and actually piped epoxy in under here.
Alright, so we're just down here in the engine room. And just behind here, that's the back seat of the deck. So everyone's going to be sitting with their butts up on there. But down here, we've just corked in all this just down in here and just smoothed it off so Ross will be able to come in and glass all of that there. Let's get out of here. Oh. Freedom. Oh, awesome.
I need to now tab over the top of this and tidy this up because it's not going to stop water from ingressing in underneath that cockpit. And very, very importantly, we keep it dry because that will actually stop any chance of delamination. There's not going to be any rot, but certainly delamination could occur if I don't seal this up. So all the way along here will be tabbed with 2 layers of 600, and that'll give me the ability, and peel plied, and then the ability to flow coat out this whole region and make it waterproof. And up in here, this is now joined all the way along here with epoxy. I've got to work out how I'm going to tab this. I can tab most of it by getting down in the back compartment in the engine room down in here, up in here, but I certainly can't get to this area easily, so I might have to look for Janet to get in here and do a bit of tabbing with her arm up in this hole. Now for possibly the most unpleasant job I've ever done on this boat is tabbing the internal seam of the back. I've got to get up in there with this and tab this whole back before I can do anything else. Now the problem is I can't get to it from there, so I'm going to have to go in through the boat and up in here. So that is going to be a pretty difficult area to laminate. I've got to repair that blue slot as well, because that's where I slid it to make the thing fit perfectly. Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do that. It's going to be overhead and upside down. Very, very uncomfortable stuff. All over me. And everything's dripping on me, so I'm not that happy at the moment. But I'm going to try to get enough laminate in this to be able to effect the repair, probably from the outside, I think. But what I'll do is I'll fill it to the top of the masking tape, which will get at least get some bite on the outside. Oh, man. Spill resin because I spill it in the engine department. Oh, well, that job, that actually has hair growing on it. It was that bad. Far out, it was an absolute shocker. But have a look down in here. What I've done is I've actually done all the way up around the top there. And what that is where I split the back of the deck, a bit like I did with the forward bow of the Cat, to make it fit the end. And it's actually this part here. So the nice thing is now that that actually has been filled from underneath. All I've got to do is now fill and fair and control that area there, and that'll be done. The next part's going to be a little bit harder. I'm going to have to do it up and underneath and over the top of the bulkhead. So I'm only going to be able to do about 2 feet, I think, max. I'll do that now, and then tomorrow I'll come in and start doing that part under there. I'm not really sure I'm going to do that because that's going to be all by feel, and you know how that goes. Yeah, resin and doing it by feel never goes well. It usually ends up your arms and in your armpits. Better go home and wax my armpits to make sure that I don't get any dollops of epoxy and vinyl ester up in there. So I got to thinking the other day, I got to lay up some sheet to do my little extensions on my stairs, which are actually going to tie into the transom of the boat. And I thought, I've got a massive 30mm foam duckboard, which is actually the cutout of the roof that I cut out about, got to be 3 or 4 months ago now. It's stuck up in the back of the factory, and it's otherwise going to go to waste. And this is just perfect for what I need. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to basically cut these sections. It does have a slight curvature, which sort of concerned me a little bit to start with, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought I can actually direct water the way that this is curved. And if I mount this into the transom of the boat, and this leads back to the sugar scoops itself, the big steps will be here, and this will actually create a little bit of a fall of water away from the back of the boat, particularly off the cockpit roof, which is overhanging the back of the stern. So yes, I'm going to end up with a bit of wastage here, but I'll be able to use this for something else at a later project, I'd imagine. The problem with it is I need to maintain the fall, and it needs to be identical on both sides, and this pretty much is going to work a treat. So I'm going to cut these out, these shapes, and then they'll basically be ready just to tab straight into the back wall of the boat itself. And how I'm going to do that, I'm not really sure yet, but I'll get these cut now, and then at least that part's done. That's going to save me a couple of days' work just by reusing an old offcut. It's okay to get those great ideas, but then you have to make it happen. The problem I've got is I need to tab this onto here, and it needs to be a pretty substantial tab, possibly a gusset. But tabbing it on and glassing the top on will be a great start, but we'll see how that goes. Had to make a number of brutal decisions and brutal cuts, and this next one's going to be the worst one. I've had to decide on the plane that I want to run all of the lines down from the mast down to, and I'm aiming for Helm Station like this one here, which is on a Lagoon 380, because that's basically around the only way that I can really construe it without and getting everything back to the helm itself, except for the jib and the genoa, which is going to be on the starboard side there. However, I've got to decide on a run where I can put all of the jammers and clutches for all the lines and then down to the winches, and I've sort of made that decision before I went away about 8 weeks ago. Made a few pretty radical cuts, and now I've got to fine tune those cuts because the Helm Station has to integrate in with it, and it's got to look good and it's got to function. More importantly, it's got to function, but also we want it to look good as well. Plus I'm fitting a 50 power winch on the outward side and a 45 on the inboard side, just because it's a little bit awkward to reach the power winch. So I'm going to basically, don't want to be leaning over the top of it. Obviously we'll be using it manually as well, but we don't want to have to straddle that large companionway to get in there, and we could also operate it from the outboard side. So I'm about to make a pretty radical cut here. Now this cut here is actually the plane with which I'm going to run all the lines, and they're going to go right back probably to about here, and you can see this line here that I've cut here. So I'm likely to have a bank of clutches here, or jammers, that are going to take most of the lines from the mast, and also I'll have to put probably a stainless ridge or a stainless roller on the top here for those lines to change direction from a horizontal plane to I guess it's about 30 degrees. It's a bit hard to envisage until I cut this out. I'm unable to work out the size of this part that's going to fit all the way through here, which will be generally probably be a solid glass region. I'll probably do it out of solid glass because I don't think foam is going to handle the loads that this thing's going to put on it. There'll be a hell of a lot of construction going on in here to be able to withstand the power of the winch, and yeah, that's going to take a lot of work, is tying all of this in. I'm going to have to glass this right in and make sure that this can withstand the load that these winches are going to put on them. I'm just gradually trimming this down. I've got the base for my winch plinths, but I'm not sure of the geometry here. I'm not sure whether to extend this further this way to give my lines and the clutches more room to operate, or whether I'm going to get the angle here. The only thing you can do is just keep cutting until you get a right shape, and then I'm going to have to make some fake winches out of some, I don't know, yogurt pops or probably ice cream containers, and then draw some lines. I think that's the key to get this the geometry right of this whole thing, because if I don't get it right, it will affect the function later on. It's pretty good. I've got the room for the winches. I've got no problem there. Getting the lines to feed correctly without too much confusion. All right, so I've got the shape I'm after, which is basically a nice wide, almost like a funnel that's going to lead all the lines to a bank of clutches about here. There'll be a roll here where the lines can change angle to the clutches and then down to their winches. You got to work with what you've got, and I don't have a lot of space to get a lot of items. I've got to get 3 wind meter, autopilot, and a speed and depth meter, as well as my Garmin 12-inch plotter. I probably should have gone for a 10-inch or a 9-inch into this space here. So I'm going to position the throttle here, and to avoid getting lines and sheets and things into this area here, I'm going to put a small lip
on this, just to prevent any lines falling over and tangling with the throttle. It doesn't seem to be an issue on boats, and I'll see here on the lagoon, they've got exactly that. They have got an organizer there going straight to the clutches, so obviously that's something I can solve easily to keep anything from ever going this way. And then I'll be able to use this entire face here for my plotter and all of the smaller gauges on a ramp here. So this will go back and then up. So I'm going to cut out, I'm going to continue this line here, which is actually looking pretty good. I'll cut this out here, and then we'll position the plotter will be around here at the back, and on a ramp it'll come back up, it'll sit a little bit higher, and that will have a combing edge on it that'll stop any water from coming this way. Obviously we're going to have a roof that's going to come out to about here anyway, so it'll stop any water from coming over the top, and just look a little bit nicer. But yeah, that's sort of pretty much the plan. This will give me good throttle control, probably a little bit back, and hopefully that's going to be enough for this. I'm so happy with this result. It's taken me a day to get that little bit done, but it really has got the geometry right for exactly what I'm trying to achieve, which is good visibility, good function, and all tucked away in one place. Now, how I'm going to work out inside and underneath it is a whole nother matter. Tomorrow I'll start to fabricate all those parts, and I'll be able to start to tack it all in, and then I'm going to start digging away underneath it to make sure I've got room for the wiring looms, the data, the NMEA stuff. The support for the winches is going to be pretty vital. This has to be as strong as to be able to control and handle the loads that I'm going to be putting on it. I do believe that I'm going to have to do some serious reinforcement down in there where those winches are. Probably some carbon, I'd imagine, will be the solution. Some carbon unis and some extra strapping underneath that, but nothing we can't do here on the hulls. But yeah, that's going to look absolutely. All right, now I've got that sort of semi-established. Let's have a look at what it looks like inside. Yuck. So this is a bit of a dog's breakfast in here, but it's certainly getting to the point where I can see what I've got to do. What I'm going to do is basically cut all the panels that I need, and then I'll be tidying it up and tacking it in place with epoxy and screws and just anything I can do to hold it in place before I start to laminate the whole thing in. Now, remembering that this plinth here has to be super strong, so there's going to be an element of coring required, and put in some G10 or some solid laminates in there for underneath the winches, and some backing plates. So there's lots to do here in this area here, but firstly I need to get this cut and get it pretty much established as to how this is all going to fit, and then I can go from there. All right, it's all tacked together and it's all peel plied, and there's a lot of areas that need to be finished, but for now I'll leave that overnight and let that all sort of settle and cure, and eventually we'll have form that I'll be able to just lift off in one piece and then bond back to the original Helm Station a bit later on. As you can see here, I made a few modifications. So we have a bank of 8 clutches here, or 8 jammers, and essentially the first 4 will run here to the power winch, but any of these jammers should be able to operate off this power winch should we decide to. And then I'll have a 45 ST down here. So it's a 50 ST Ocean Evo and a 45 ST Ocean Evo. And then I've got basically the monitor, the 4 display units that I have, and my dual throttle from C-Star here. And ultimately this here is going to be scaled down. I just wanted to leave it higher until I worked out how I was going to do it. But what I'm trying to do is get any water that could hit this, I want it to funnel down there and away.